Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am so excited to be here with you guys today to talk about what does love have to do with it, okay? So I am going to share my screen with you guys. One moment, give me a second to get it all together for you. Alrighty, here we go. All right, give me a thumbs up if everyone can see my PowerPoint. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you. So, thank you so much for that introduction, Donna. I am so excited. I love PATH. I've been a health educator here for so long, almost a decade now, and I teach the Love Notes program. So, a lot of what you are actually going to hear is from the Love Notes program and some personal experience as well. So, let's talk about this first. Is a healthy relationship possible in today's society? So we talk to a lot of kids about this, and you'll be shocked to hear a lot of kids are like, you know what, with social media, we don't think it's possible anymore. It's so much drama, and we just have so many different, opinions. And then we have students that feel like, yeah, I believe that there, is some possibility for a healthy relationship. So, we love to ask this question because it's so important to kind of see what do they feel. It's easy for me to say my opinion, but I want to connect with my youth. I want to hear how are they feeling about relationships in today's society. So we're going to move on to that next PowerPoint. All right, so what we like to share with our youth that most haven't given up on love. In a recent survey, we let them know that 83% of those between the ages of 20 and 24 actually still believe in this, right? They actually still want to get married someday. And I love to hear that because we know that, in society we do see a lot of breakups and divorces and unhealthy and violent relationships. But we want to give our students hope. We want to let them know that it is very possible to be able to have a healthy relationship in today's society. And we want to equip them and give them the skills to do so. Okay. So the good news is that from some research, we can let them know that there are some skills that can assist one in having a healthy relationship. And also there are clear indicators of like what, if you engage in certain situations or certain behaviors that can harm your relationship. So we like to teach you this. And so, what I always love to start with is a healthy relationship starts with a healthy you. I want my youth to know, and even adults, because a lot of what we teach, it definitely can be used in our personal lives as well. To know that you have purpose, you have potential apart from someone else, apart from a romantic relationship. We want them to recognize their intrinsic value, right? That it doesn't depend even on your friendships or definitely not those romantic relationships. So we spend a lot of time just really digging into who are you as an individual. So this is why we really talk about the importance of self-reflection. And I think it's so important. We really spend some time on this. Who am I as an individual? What do I like? And on this screen is just a few examples of some questions, but we want to ask, what are my goals for my future? What are my values? What don't I like? What are my sexual boundaries? What are my strengths and weaknesses? Do I respect myself? Do I accept and love myself for who I am? And we just want to let you to work on being the best you that you can be for yourself. And then later start to think about what are qualities I'm looking for in a future partner? What are some deal breakers? But we know as adults, if you don't really know yourself, it's going to be hard to know if someone's a good match for you, right? Because if you don't know what your values are, how are you going to know if his or her values match yours? If you don't know what you like to do for fun, how do you know if you're even in a relationship where you're having fun, where you're enjoying yourself? And it's so important that, we teach our youth that compatibility is key. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, what is your vision? And we like to ask our students, what are your visions for your friendships, but even more so important for your future romantic relationship? And you know what? Sometimes youth really don't know. They maybe they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. Maybe they haven't had an example in their lives, or maybe they just feel like, you know what, that's not possible, or I've never seen a healthy marriage. All I see is fighting and arguing and separation, and I don't even know what a healthy vision would look like for my future. And that's what we kind of want to paint a picture for our youth that it is possible, but also these are some qualities that, are in a healthy relationship. Here is what it can look like. And what I love about, being able to go and talk to youth is me and my husband, we work together, we are a team. And it's so awesome that, students are like, you guys are married? Oh my God. And they ask us so many questions about what we teach. And we're able to actually let them know that we actually use this in our personal lives. And the beauty of it, as Donna was saying, I might share a little bit about it, is that before I met my husband, I worked at Path. And honestly, you guys, I use a lot of these principles in my dating relationship with him and to see, is he a good match? Is he not a good match? So I am forever grateful for this curriculum. So let's move on. So we want to paint that picture. What is your vision for your future? So when we talk about love, is love real? Y'all, what does love have to do with it, right? We want to talk about the chemistry of attraction. So, some kids are like, well, I'm in love with this person that I'm dating, and some are like, it was love at first sight. And we want to challenge them. What is it really? When you first like a person, some people call it liking, falling in love, and attraction, chemistry, all these great things. Some call it love, but we want to explain to them, when you first meet someone, what actually is happening? Is it really love at first sight? Because we hear a lot of people after a while can say, we just fell out of love. Well, what does that mean? What actually is going on? Do you just fall in and fall out of love? And so I want to explore the chemistry of attraction. What we really like to let them know is when you first meet someone, there's actually a drastic change in the brain chemistry. So we want them to know that there is a lot going on when you first have that initial attraction to someone. And so we break it down to neurochemicals and hormones that are actually flooding the brain. So we let them know that PEA and norepinephrine, it's that elevation that gives you that feeling of joy and excitement and makes your heart race when you see someone. So we want them to know that in that initial, oh my God, he's so cute or she's so cute, those feelings, that energy, excitement, that's because of what's going on in the brain. And that's that initial parts of attraction. And then dopamine, that feel good neurochemical, that rush of pleasure, desire to go after goals and to have greater sociability. That's part of what's going on in that stage as well. And that oxytocin, that bonding hormone, we call it the cuddle hormone. Oh, I just want to cuddle, or I want to hold your hand, or I want to kiss you. Like, this is all because of oxytocin. But we also want to warn them that during this phase, your serotonin level drops. And what happens, that can really attest for why we might have that obsession with the person. We've all probably been there, right? Let's be honest, where all you can do is think about them. And when you hear their name and you're just so excited, everything is about them. You just can't stop daydreaming about this person that you're attracted to. That's part of the reason why. And also, this is why our ability to judge, that also decreases. It's why we see no flaws. And so that's something important that I love to teach our youth, that you have to be really careful in this stage. We call it the infatuation stage. Okay? It's not necessarily love, at least not yet. It's that initial attraction where you have such great chemistry with this person. And it's all because of what's going on. And also, what we want to let them know is areas that control judgment, fear, negative emotions, that's really deactivated during this infatuation stage. Okay, so we want to encourage them not to make any major decisions in this infatuation stage. And in fact, we let them know it's not a bad stage. We all go through it. It's a part of life. It's amazing. The butterflies in the stomach, your palms are sweating when you see them, you start to stutter, the heart racing. It's okay. Enjoy it, but don't read too much into it. And definitely don't have sex with someone in these early stages. And so, because of that serotonin level drop and how our judgment is impaired a little bit, right? And we become a little obsessive about that person, a lot happens in that case. So we're going to move on to that next slide. This is why, look at this cute little guy. He's so adorable, right? So this is why in that infatuation stage, you could be dating someone where you feel, oh, they're so perfect. They're so cute. I love them so much. They have no flaws. But after the chemicals settle, you could possibly be dating this person. Okay. So we really love to tell our youth, relax, take your time. Take it slow, people, because you want to give time for those chemicals to settle down. Don't make any major decisions. And we also like to let them know there's a lot that you could be missing about this person during this infatuation stage. That's how you can go to the adorable kitty to the roaring lion. Maybe, you're missing that you don't have a lot in common. You don't have common interests. Maybe you don't communicate well. And there's so much more on this list. Or maybe more serious issues. Maybe they're abusive. Or maybe they're a liar. Or they're not faithful. Or they abuse substances. But the major thing is that we tell you the reason why it's so important to take your time and to not engage into sex in this stage is because if you discover some of these things, it's not hard to break up and to move on. You don't have many ties with this person. You took it slow. You enjoyed the beginning stages of having fun and getting to know them without getting too close and too tied and too serious and not intimate with this person physically. And so it's so important just to encourage our youth to enjoy the dating process, enjoy the chemicals, right? Enjoy the infatuation stage, but definitely give it time before you do anything serious or make that decision. So what we tell them again is during when we have these chemicals flooding our brain, it's okay, right? It's totally fine. And as adults, we've experienced this, so we can help guide them through this process. But we want to stress the 3-6-9 month rule to our youth. And simply put, all it is in the first 3-6-9 months of a relationship, don't make any major decisions. Don't have sex with them. Don't, buy them a $500 gift. Get to know them. Get to know yourself with them. Are our values in sync? Do we enjoy each other? So many things to find out, but just enjoy it. And so that's the infatuation stage. And our kids love this because we do a whole glitter experiment with it where we show the different chemicals represented as different color glitters, and we shake it up in a clear bottle and it's explosive. And they're like, oh, I can't see clearly. And then we sit it down and it settles. Now we can see clearly. And so we really try to demonstrate that so they can get a visual to just let them know, relax, take it slow. And some kids might ask, okay, all right, I understand this whole infatuation stage, Mrs. Shine. Okay, but what if it really is destined to be real love? What happens after this 3 month or 6 month, 9 month period? Where do I go from here? What if I really want to explore, this person or this relationship because I think it's so much more? You know what? I'm glad they asked, right? Because I have something for them. We like to introduce the 7 principles for smart relationships. And when I tell you guys that I love these principles, that I use these principles when I was dating my husband, yes, they work. And we can model these principles in our lives, in any relationship, even friendships. And that's something that's important to let our youth know. It's also important to have these boundaries and set goals for your friendships and to lay that strong foundation of friendships. So the first principle is seek a good match. I know we've all heard that opposites attract. We've all heard it, but that's usually in terms of personality style. The most healthier relationships, they have things in common. Some of them like to do some of the similar things, have similar goals in life. Because think about it. Don't you want to be with someone that you enjoy being with, right? And so this is what we tell our youth. You want to seek a good match. Don't just say, oh my God, they're cute. I'm attracted to them. Okay, but after that infatuation stage, what's next? Do you have anything in common? Is this person compatible, a good match for you? And then we say, pay attention to their values. Are your values in sync? Do they respect your values? Or do they really try to push the limit so that you don't even respect your own values? That's so important. And again, as I say, we can use this in our lives as well as adults. Do they respect your values? And we tell our students, pay attention to that. But it goes back to that self reflection. Do you know your values? You have to spend some time with yourself to ask yourself, what's important to me? All right. And they can't be afraid to leave a relationship or even a friendship that disrespects their values. So don't try to change a person into someone else. Sometimes we think we can save a person or change a person, or I call it the build a man or build a woman project. You have to love people for who they are. And of course, we can make positive, changes and encourage someone, a friend or a dating partner to make positive changes. But ultimately, guys, we know they have to want to make those changes for themselves. And I like to ask, if they never change, would you be okay with dating them in their current situation? Especially when we talk about mature relationships, because sometimes people don't change. So ask yourself, are you trying to force your way on someone, force your opinions, force who you want them to be? Or are you seeing clearly who they are today? And that's something important that I like them to think about. And also, don't try to change yourself for acceptance or love. And that's so big. Sometimes we see our students or even adults so desperate for a relationship, so desperate for love that they forget who they are, right? They begin to compromise their goals, their dreams, their value, and forget who they are to please another person. But ultimately, that usually does not end well, right? We've seen that happen in our lives or someone else's. That doesn't end well because you want to stay true to who you are. That's how you can have a lasting relationship, being true to who you are, right? So expect good communication. This is so important. Be willing to work things out. It's so important because, the initial relationship, it's great. You have that, your friendship and all of that. But we all know, and we all can attest to this, there are going to be disagreements. It doesn't matter how great your friendship or relationship is, there are going to be disagreements or maybe arguments. But the thing about it is, we have to learn how to respect each other through these different things. And that's what we want to teach our youth. How do they handle that other person, disagreements? How do they handle when they're angry, when they're sad, when they're disappointed? Can you guys talk it out? Are they willing to talk it out? Or are they always explosive? Or they never want to talk about the issues? That's important because you have to have good communication. And we'll talk about that a little later. Don't play games, be phony, pressure, or use someone. We tell them all the time, you want to be honest, you want them to be honest. You don't want to play games to try to get their love or affection or to get them to do what you want them to do. And you don't want a partner like that. You want to be able to be honest, be upfront, not play games, not be phony, or even pressure someone to be with you or to do what you want them to do in the relationship. Okay? And last, expect respect. Have standards for how you want to be treated. Respect is so important, and we want to encourage our youth, that respect in respecting the other person and having mutual respect is so key in having a healthy relationship. And we need to teach them that you teach people how to treat you. If you allow them to talk down to you or to call you out of your name or to disrespect you or to keep pushing your boundaries, your personal boundaries, they'll continue to do that. So you have to set a standard for how you want to be treated. And if they don't agree or they disrespect you, be willing to let go of that friendship. Be willing to let go of that relationship. And again, as I say, I love these 7 principles because they're so important. I've seen them work out in my life. So I love to be able to share that with youth to just show them how effective this can be during that dating process. So we're going to move on. We also encourage our youth that when they're dating and they're in these relationships, not to ignore warning signs, the red flags. And a lot of times kids don't know what that is. They don't know what warning signs are, like because some of them, as I said, have not had examples of healthy relationships. And so we want to point some of these red flags out to some of our youth. And so briefly, I'm going to just touch a little bit on dating violence, but we want them to know that anytime there's any type of physical violence, being pinched, hit, shoved, slapped, punched, kicked, scratched, grabbed, or slammed, or hurt physically in any way, that is a red flag, a warning sign. Definitely not an indicator of a healthy relationship. Okay. In it, we like to teach them that you may start off in a healthy relationship and it begins to show some of these warning signs. So then that's important to say, this is now going in not a great situation or great direction, and I need to step back and get out of this situation. Okay. Maybe psychological or emotional, where it's name calling, shaming, guilting, embarrassing on purpose, harming their sense of self-worth, or sexual, where they're forcing their partner to engage in a sex act that they don't want to, or even stalking, a pattern of harassing or threatening tactics that cause fear in the victim. So there's so much more that we can go into, but we like to just stick with these basic definitions to kind of just show them if you're seeing some of this in your relationship, no matter how you feel about the person, no matter how it may have started off healthy, right now, this is not a healthy relationship, and you should be seeking ways to get out of it. And we go further into dating violence and teach them the steps, how to get out and how to get help in that thing. But we also stress that overall, just to hit it all together or to put it in a pretty bow or package, healthy relationships are safe. You should feel physically safe. And we let them know that if you don't at any time, if you're afraid of being harmed or hurt, that this is not a healthy relationship for you. Also, emotional safety in this relationship. Do you feel like I can be myself? Do you feel like that I can share my opinions, share my feelings with this other person? Or do I feel like I cannot? Can I trust them, right? Trust and commitment safety. Do I feel like my partner has my back? Are they there for me? Do I feel like they're committed to me and to this relationship? Because, they have to choose to be committed, right? Being in a healthy relationship is part of choosing that you want to be with this person and making that commitment every day to be faithful to this person. And so we like to kind of just point some of those things out. And so we like to take it back to that initial chemistry stage. You've met this person, you're attracted to them, you're having fun, you're just obsessed with them, like everything's perfect. And that's why in that infatuation stage, the world could be on fire and it doesn't matter because I'm with you, type of a thing. But then once that all settles down, they're able to use those 7 principles of dating smart or smart relationships to be able to see, okay, the chemicals settled, is this a good match for me? All right. Yes, they're attractive. Great. We have fun. Great. But what else? Are we a great match for each other? And now we want them to decide, not slide into a risky situation because they just ran headfirst into a relationship without knowing a person very well, but to decide. They took the time to get to know those important things, the deeper things that's just beyond the physical, to decide, do I want to be in a committed relationship with this person? Do I want to mature, to actually explore now a more mature relationship with this person, a deeper commitment? And we really teach them that, when you slide, there's so many consequences that you can come up against versus taking the time to decide. And so we ask our youth, what makes a great relationship? Now, we went through the 7 principles and, we feel like it's a great match now. And I'm ready to decide to be with this person. I feel like this is a great match for me. But now, how do I keep this relationship going? What makes a great relationship? When we ask our youth that, and I love to hear their answers. They're always interesting, but they're really intelligent answers, and it's really great. And so we explain, when you want to go to that deeper, more mature relationship, or you feel like this is not infatuation anymore. This is developing into love. All right. And so we talk about the 3 sides of love. Something, it's just chemistry. I'm attracted to this person. We're in love. Something, we have a great friendship. We trust each other. We trust in commitment. We're there for each other. I commit to them and only them. I'm reliable. I have their back. And going back to friendship, they may feel like we have fun together. They may feel like, we accept each other's flaws and we, celebrate each other's strengths and we share things with each other. We're sharing our lives together. But there's not just one part of this. That's why you have so many people that, they have that physical attraction, the chemistry, and then once it starts to go down a little, they're like, we just fell out of love. I don't know what happened. We were attracted to each other, it was all good, and then the love just left. Or you have people that are like, oh, we have a great friendship, we're great friends, but we just don't match as a married couple anymore. Because you need the 3 sides of love. And it's definitely a balancing act, right? We know as adults, whether, dating or married or been in a relationship before, it is definitely a balancing act to really work on keeping chemistry going and friendship going and that trust and commitment going. But the biggest takeaway that we want to give our youth is it is a choice. Love is not a decision. Once you've gone through that amazing infatuation stage with the butterflies and you've gone through the 7 principles of dating, getting to know them and seeing deeper who they are and who you are and is that if that's compatible. Once you see all that, you decide, yes, this is a person that I want to be in a committed, mature relationship with. I choose now to give my heart to this person. I choose to love this person. And what does that look like? So I choose to work on that chemistry when I feel like, oh, the butterflies are going away, right? And now that we know that it's really the chemistry of attraction, it's really a lot going on in our brain. We don't have to put so much, pressure on. The chemistry feels different when I first met you. And it's like, well, yes, because it's a lot of differences that's going on now, right? Those chemicals have settled down. But we know we can make a choice to really bring back the spark into our relationship by putting the time in that area. Or friendship, to foster time for fun and just hanging out with no worries, not talking about serious topics, but just enjoying one another. And trust and commitment, making that decision that, oh my God, this person is so attractive that I just met, at my new job. But I can say they're attractive without moving on that attraction because I'm committed to my partner, right? I'm in a committed relationship and I know that this person is compatible for me. They can trust me. They can trust me to be there for them when they need it. They can trust me to be a reliable partner for them. And so we want to just encourage our youth to explain this, that when the chemicals have settled down and they're in a mature relationship, there is some work to be done. But you have to decide is this the person that you want to do that work with? And I think that's such a beautiful thing to be able to explain to youth who are just learning about, infatuation stage and learning about themselves, because they're changing and learning and evolving. And I just love to explain that to them, that it is very possible to have a healthy relationship and to maintain that. So,
We have a question.
oh, we have a question.
What do you say when a teen asks, once you decide it's a good match, is it okay to have sex?
Yes. So, oh, that's a great question. So it goes back to your sexual boundary. We let them to ask themselves, where do I want to go in my future? What are my goals and dreams? And will that hinder me if I have sex in high school? So what we like to explain to the youth is we don't suggest that teens have sex so they can avoid some of the negative consequences as teens, unplanned pregnancy, STDs, HIV, or just some of the emotional issues that can come from if there's a breakup, the additional heartache. So we do suggest that they wait to after high school, but ultimately we let them know that it's their choice. We want them to make the choice. So we just give them the guidance and we let them choose. But we want to let them know that right now we want them to focus on being the best them, not worrying about those types of things or consequences, just enjoying their lives, moving forward with their goals and dreams without worry of any of those consequences. So great question. Thank you for that. All righty, moving on. So, what does communication have to do with it? Let's talk about it, right? Because you can be in a healthy relationship and communication, if you don't have the proper communication skills, you could potentially destroy your relationship. And I've seen that happen. And we want to empower and equip our youth to know that you can succeed in your relationship, but there are skills that you need to have. And so research have shown, and if you have any questions about any research or anything that I'm talking about, just put in the chat, put your email, I'll get that and I'll send it to you. That there are 4 danger signs, communication danger signs, that if you engage in it often, it can actually destroy your relationship. So we're going to talk about the first one, and we've probably done them ourselves, right? Put downs. So put down is when you put someone down in an argument or disagreement. You put down their opinions, maybe their worth, maybe you talk down to them, something negative about them, and that's your go-to when you're in a discussion or disagreement. Negative interpretations is when you interpret something more negatively than the person intended to. For example, if I ask my husband, oh, you put up the dishes, and he says, well, what do you mean? You think I don't put the dishes up? Well, that's a negative interpretation. If in my mind I was going to say, oh my God, that's awesome. I wanted to just thank you for putting the dishes up. So they're already interpreting my comment in a negative way without giving me a little grace, giving me a chance to kind of explain even what I'm talking about. Or avoidance withdrawal. Oh, they avoid every problem, every issue, or they withdraw. Anytime you want to talk about something important or you want to hash out an issue, they withdraw, they avoid you, they push it under the rug. But the problem is, it never gets solved. It gets worse and worse. And eventually, that could become a huge obstacle in your relationship, if not even break you up. And then escalation. Escalation is when a routine, regular conversation erupts into an out of control argument. I mean, hurtful, vengeful comments are said. I mean, you might hit below the belt saying something that you know that was really embarrassing or really hurt them. The problem is, when you apologize, sometimes the person doesn't forget that. And if you keep doing that in every disagreement or argument, it stacks up and you could potentially destroy your relationship. So, of course, we know some of you are probably thinking, girl, some of this is going to happen sometimes. Well, we know no one's perfect. No relationship is perfect. We know we have our moments. But the key is to start practicing not to use these danger signs because the more you use it, the more you're damaging your relationship instead of building it to staying healthy. And so we just want to work on those things, right? To not engage in it often. And if you happen to engage, just having the courage and the humility to apologize and to work through it and to work it out. So another thing that we like to tell our youth about communication when we're talking about disagreements is that what to do when you're having a disagreement. You might need to take a timeout. Now we laugh about this all the time. We tell our youth, you don't want to tell your partner, you need to take a timeout. Okay, go to the corner, go out the room. No, that will make them more upset, right? Because it will make you more upset. So what you want to do is just find some language that you feel comfortable with. For me, what I say is, you know what? I can't talk right now. I need a moment. That's my way of letting my husband know I need some time to myself to calm down, to think, to get to a better place to resolve this issue. And so we teach our youth, as I said, number one, to say, I need a timeout, or some phrase that seems a little bit more natural, right? I don't think saying I need a timeout sounds as natural. So find something that you feel comfortable with. And then we let them know, do or say something that calms you down. If I go in the room and think about everything that my husband said to me that made me angry, that won't calm me down. So we teach them to think what calms you down. Maybe it's to take a walk, ride your bike, play a video game, eat ice cream, take a nap, whatever it is. Find that thing and do it. It might be just to breathe in, breathe out a few times, but to find that thing for yourself. And we want them to identify what's behind the anger. A lot of times you're angry because your feelings are hurt. Maybe you felt left out, disrespected, unloved, unwanted. And we have to be real. And we want to teach our youth to be real, to find out, why did I snap? Why did I get angry? Why did I feel so violent? Dig deeper and really think some self reflection. Why? And that way, when you come back to talk about the issue, you can explain really what was going on and you can help that not to happen again, right? And then we always want them to think about VIEW. It's an acronym just to remind yourself that you're valuable, you're important, you're equal to anyone and anything and worthy of love and respect. We want to teach our youth that. And honestly, I use this as an adult. It takes time to actually be able to use it, because how many of you guys know when you're angry or upset, you are not thinking about VIEW, you are not thinking about timeouts, you're just upset, right? So it took some time to really, use this and to practice it, but it does work and it does help a lot. And we try to explain real life situations with our youth so that we can, assist them in self-regulation. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So at least 30 minutes you want to wait, but no more than 24 hours to come back and talk to that partner or even friend. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. And we really like to stress that with them, that, you want to come back and talk about the issues, because they'll only get worse if you just keep pushing them under the rug. You want to come to a consensus, you want to talk it out, you want to get better, and that can maintain a healthy relationship, okay? And then after you wait 30 minutes, but no more than 24 hours, you just come back and talk about it. And so I kind of said this really quick, a buzzword that we kind of use, but I just want to talk about self-regulation really quick with the timeout skills, because a lot of having or displaying those good communication habits is that self-regulation, being able to do that, okay? And self-regulation is the act of managing your thoughts and feelings to enable your goal-oriented behavior. So an example, like what I just gave, call it a timeout when there's an argument so that you can keep a healthy relationship, okay? And maybe you feel the other person was wrong and they were dead wrong, but you want to keep a healthy relationship. So you're not thinking about who's right or who's wrong. You want you guys to win as a couple, right? And this is what we want to teach our youth. You have to have self-regulation. Take that in yourself to say, okay, I'm going to control my behaviors because the end goal is a healthy relationship. And as adults, we can model these behaviors in our classrooms or even with the youth that we serve, or just the youth that are in your life. If you're not in a classroom, we can really help model self-regulation. And I teach this with our students. For example, if they get out of hand, instead of me getting upset and yelling, we can do a breathe in and breathe out. Or I can do this chant that I do, good job, just to get them to focus. And so we can, model these behaviors to help teach and to help guide our youth on a path to healthy relationships. And so self-regulation is a big part of healthy relationships, and we like to tell our youth and we like to model that for them as well. And so after you've come back from that timeout, we introduce that speaker-listener technique, really being able to teach them, when you're coming back, how do you talk to that person? A lot of times we want to talk over each other, cut each other off, remind each other what they did wrong. And that's not going to get you to your goal, right? Think about that self-regulation, controlling yourself for the betterment of that relationship. So we give them some tips. So tip number one for that speaker, okay? They speak for yourself, no mind reading, don't go on and on. Pause, let listener paraphrase. And for that listener, don't interrupt. Oh my God, I struggle so much with that. If you struggle with that, please put it in chat so I know I am not alone. I am not the only person that interrupts. I struggle with that. Even in my marriage, he can probably pop in the chat. I struggle with that. And I know this, but I'm just such a fast talker, as you can tell probably now. I'm trying to slow down, that I just want to just keep going. I want to go on, and I want to interrupt because I'm trying to get my point across. And it's so funny because lately I'm like, okay, speaker listener technique, and it's so funny because one day my husband said, when we were in disagreement, this isn't love notes. And I'm like, but we're using love notes to help us in this argument. arguments. Like, let's use this. But I take it so serious, guys. I love this stuff. So I really try to implement in my life to be an example for the youth around us and honestly for the betterment of my relationship. And so don't interrupt, don't disagree. Seek to understand and paraphrase what you heard. Now, how many of you guys can agree? If you're thinking about the next thing that you want to say to this person, are you really seeking to understand what that person's saying? Probably not, because I'm not even hearing what you're saying. It's like it's going in one ear, but I'm trying to formulate my next argument or what I'm going to say next. And so this is such a powerful tool, but I think this is one of the hardest. Definitely takes self-regulation, definitely takes discipline in the moment, right? Because no one wants to listen. Everybody wants to overtalk, you know. And if you've mastered that, please put in chat, you are a rock star. You are my hero today, okay? But I've been working on it and I have been getting so much better. So we like to teach our youth the speaker listener technique. Okay. And so we want to ask, what's love got to do with it? You know, that's the title of today's lunch table. And we really want to just teach our youth that love is a decision. It's not just a feeling. And that's why I love, you know, the chemistry of attraction. When we talk about infatuation, I think it's so important. Honestly, as an adult, before, you know, doing some of this research and before learning these curriculums, I had no idea about what was going on with some of these relationships I was in. And it just stuck with me when I learned, oh wow, well that's why, you know, I didn't see that red flag or I didn't see that flaw or I just continuously, you know, ran that stoplight, right? The stop sign that said stop, warning, warning, or you know, we're getting into a situation that I should have had judgment in. But the reason why is I was in that infatuation stage. I couldn't, you know, judge clearly. I couldn't see clearly. It's like I had love goggles on, right? And that made a big difference. And so I just love to be able to teach that to our youth because it helps them not even just now, but in their future more mature relationships. That's going to be such a jewel to teach them that to not go too fast in that beginning of a relationship, to be able to halt and to enjoy the feelings, but not think too much into it or read too much into it until you give it a while, right? That 3, 6, 9 month rule. And to be able to say, okay, now let's date. Let's really see, are you compatible with me? And I just love to be able to teach them having a vision for your future will help lead and guide you in your choices. And so, if you know that you want someone, let's give an example, who is adventurous and loyal and drug free, and you meet them and they're so cute, you have that physical attraction, the butterflies, it's all there, you're having fun, but you realize that they're not drug free and they hate adventure and, you know, all of those things, then you can say, okay, before we get too deep into this, I recognize that this is not a compatible partner for me. Okay. And again, you know, to each case, right, it can be different as we're mature and older. We know that some things weigh higher than others, like maybe that he's not or she's not adventurous. Maybe you can deal with that, right? But maybe you can't deal with the fact that they're not drug free. And we teach them that. Like, what are your deal breakers? What are some things that these are absolute values that you cannot, you know, deter from? And what are some things that you're willing to deter from? And so, again, having that clear vision will help our youth guide their choices. So, we want to help them and teach them how to come up with their vision for their future for a healthy relationship if that's their desire to be in a relationship. We don't want to assume. And then when they're feeling attracted, to take it slow, get to know that person before making a decision about that person. And then we want to teach them that you can learn skills that can help you in having a healthy relationship. And I believe communication is just such a powerful one because, I mean, you have to communicate with that partner every day. And the way that you communicate can either build that relationship daily or tear it down. So it's so important for them to gain healthy communication patterns. And then having a healthy relationship, to be honest, has a lot to do with making a wise partner choice. And that's why we talk so heavily about the 7 principles of smart relationships, because it's so important to think about those things when you're dating someone and to ask yourself, you know, is this really a good match for me or is it not a good match for me? And so, really, I would like to also say a little bit about, like Donna said, my story is that even as an adult, I really used a lot of these principles, honestly, all of these principles in my dating relationship. And I was not willing to settle for less, even at my age of being in my 30s, being still single, right? I was not going to settle for less. I knew too much about these principles, about really getting to know yourself and the importance of knowing who you are, knowing your value, and that your value doesn't come from another human being, but it's from within. And knowing, that it's so important to learn yourself, know yourself, and to grow and to become the best you for you. And I would encourage anybody to do that. Our youth, adults, it's such a powerful thing to be able to stand alone and know who you are and to know what you want. And I think that, the curriculum also helps me just to get a vision. What do I want? And to know that healthy relationships and healthy marriages, they are very possible. And even to go on to say, even the abstinence piece, guys, as hard and tough as that was, as an adult, to be able to be abstinent until marriage, to be able to choose, even as an adult, I didn't want to worry about pregnancy. I didn't want to worry about STDs or HIV. I didn't want to worry about any of those consequences either, to be honest. I had goals, I had dreams, and to be able to use a lot of those 7 principles to say, hey, are we in common? Have things in common? Do we have the same values? Okay, because not having the same values, we know, can cause a lot of issues in a healthy relationship. You really have to make sure you're on the same page and to be able to use some of those principles and say, am I trying to change this person, or does this person love me for who I am? Do we see ourselves being able to build a life together on the foundation of our values and our goals and dreams and our vision for our future? And so this program, and just, I'm going to be honest, Path in general has been such a blessing in my life because I've been able to use these principles to be able to not only use them in my life, to be able to now share this with youth and to be able to say, hey guys, it is possible. I'm living it, and it's amazing. When we give our youth tools, we equip them, we empower them. Oh my God, what could they do? They can do the impossible. They can have that vision that they want for their future. They can have their goals and dreams. They can have still a healthy family, a healthy marriage, but we have to give them the skills. And I love it. The more tools we put in their toolbox, the more equipped they are to have healthy relationships. And again, this is such a wide, a topic and broad topic, and we could talk about it for 5 hours. There's so many intricate details to having a healthy relationship and healthy communication skills and wise partner choices and taking personality tests to know who you are and all of those things. And it's so great. But just the more that we pour into our youth, even if you're not a teacher or instructor, but the youth in your life, your children, whoever it may be, the better they can choose. And again, we know that even if you have all these tips and all these tools, it doesn't mean that your relationship's infallible, right? We know that some relationships still may not make it, but how many more can make it because we have equipped them? And so that's, in a nutshell, kind of just what I wanted to bring to the table, and just sharing kind of just my personal story of being able to use these principles in my personal life and being able to, be able to choose a wise partner choice. And then I carried him on to Path, and now he's able to share it as well. And so I'm just excited about that because I really believe in what we teach, and I really am an advocate for what Path teaches. And I really believe that as we empower and equip youth, as we continue to pour into our youth, we can have a better future for our youth and a better world, just being able to shape the minds of our youth and to help them make healthy choices, healthy partner choices that can equal healthy lives for our kids. So in a nutshell, that's it. That's what love has to do with it. And thank you guys. We're going to soon get ready for our breakouts. I know you guys are like, yes. Okay, so while you're in your breakouts, and we'll put this in the, I think in the chat.
Introduce your husband before.
Oh, they want me to introduce my husband. Okay. I would like to introduce my husband, Louis Shine. Is there anything that you would like to say? He's also a health educator. Oh, we can't hear him.
All right, I
There
was
you go.
working on my mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I'm good. I'm Louis Shine. I'm also a health educator, PATH, Positive Approach to Teen Health, and we teach the Love Notes curriculum. It's a joy, honestly, and an answered prayer to like work alongside my wife. Always wanted a marriage that I could do that, but we're actually working here at PATH, and we actually get to teach the kids a lot of what we actually walk through. And so to be able to be in classes and not only have that witness of the success side of what we're teaching, but to be able to interact with them and answer questions and things like that, it's just a benefit, and it's fun because whenever you're able to share of your own testimony and it's actually a real testimony and it helps others, it's always a benefit. So it's pretty cool. So I'm honored to be able to do that.
Thank you, Lewis. Thanks for popping in there. I appreciate that. So yeah, and definitely, being able to work with your husband and to live with your husband, right? You definitely have to use these communication skills and some of this stuff. So I'm ever grateful. Thank you. So it's awesome. So we're gonna move on to here are some of the questions. How do you feel about the concept that love is a decision and not a feeling? How do you feel about the concept that love is a decision and not a feeling? Dun, dun, dun. All right. And then we will talk about um, do you agree or disagree that the more tools and knowledge about relationships that our youth have, the better chance they have of a healthy relationship in the future? And again, this is long, so we'll type it out for you. And if so, what tools or skills do you think is most helpful to them? All right. What schools or tools do you think would be most helpful to them? And then what's one thing from today that you can take back to the youth that you serve or that's in your life? Because we don't want to assume everyone's educators, but youth that you may encounter with or that you live with or that's in your life. What's one thing from today that you can take back to the youth that you serve or that's in your life? All right. And then I do have a last question in case you have time for this last one. Why do you think it's so easy for teens to slide into risky relationships rather than to decide? Why do you think it's so easy for them to slide into risky relationships rather than to decide on a healthy relationship? As we talked about the sliding versus the deciding. And that's it. I'll let Donna take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharbria. You did a great job. We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. You all get your lunch, use the bathroom, get yourself a coffee or drink, whatever you need to do. When you come back after the 5-minute break, your breakout rooms will be on the screen. Go ahead and join your breakout room. There should be 4 or 5 of you in each room. And then we will shoot those questions that Sharbria mentioned in one at a time to give you time to think about them, and then we'll shoot in another one so that you have time to talk about them. So quick 5-minute break, grab your lunch, throw it in the microwave if you need to, or whatever you want to do. We got 5 minutes and then we'll come back together. I would like to encourage you to turn on your video while you're in your small groups. Quickly introduce yourselves, and then we'll have about a half an hour or so to have these conversations. Then we'll come back together to the main room and we'll share some of the things that you talked about. So quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good lunch and some great conversation. And I hope you took the time to have a spokesperson assigned. We're going to go ahead and work through the questions that were fed into your room. I know some of them were long and I know they don't pop up there very long. So hopefully we got them. We did things a little bit differently today because PATH staff are kind of all on board, but in just 2 different locations. So PATH, we have a Portage PATH staff, we're all in one room. Valpo PATH staff, we're all in another room. And then the rest of you, we're all in another room. So we only ended up with 3 rooms, but I'm really anxious to see what the different conversations were as a result of kind of breaking things up a little bit differently than how we usually do it. So Sharbria, I'll let you go ahead and kind of ask your question and then we'll just let tables give feedback.
All right. So let's go to group number 1. Do we know which group is number 1?
Group number 1 was our Portage group.
All right. Is there a
First
spokesperson?
question, I think, was
How do you feel about the concept that love is a decision and not a feeling?
All right. So we talked about that. We had some good discussion in here. But we all unanimously said that love is not a feeling, it's a decision. We said that it's not a feeling, but eventually it will get there, but it starts as a decision that goes into action and then becomes a feeling. So that's the kind of the manifestation progression.
Gotcha.
And
Thank you for
they're
that.
snapping. They're snapping. All right.
Awesome. No, I do like that. Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Group number 2, do you agree with them? Is it a decision and do the feelings follow, or does it start as a feeling and then the decision follows? What do you think?
We said, so I'm the spokesperson for group number 2, and we said our answers were more similar to the second thing, that love starts as a feeling, but it's one of the few feelings that it's important how you show that to other people, and that's not necessarily true of other emotions. Like when you're happy, you don't have to really choose how that manifests itself, but love, the action is built on a series of choices that you have to continue to make, but it starts as a feeling, and who you love is who you decide to show that love to.
Yes, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Completely agree. Yes.
Okay, how about our Valpo office? What do you all think? Who's our spokesperson there?
We're all here, but this is Devin.
Hi, Devin.
Oh, I gotta go this way.
We kind of
Did
agree.
you all decide?
We all agreed with what Lewis said. That love is a decision and it requires action.
And it's a continuous choice.
And Jasmine said it's a continuous choice.
Feelings follow sometimes.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
So I have a follow-up question. What do those feelings feel like or look like? How will a teenager know or recognize the feelings so that they know when to make a decision and put it into action? It's open conversation.
Oh,
Their brain
So-
is fully developed, so.
Yeah.
so we talk about they'll recognize those feelings in the beginning, but that's not the time that they need to make a decision because that falls under the 3, 6, 9 month rule. And so they need to let all of the excitement calm down, especially at their age. Now, when you get older, it's different. Like me and my wife, we got married within a year. Okay, it's a little different. We're a little more mature in our decision making, but for them, it's very hard unless they're wise beyond their years to like decipher what's really going on over their feelings. That they need that 3, 6, 9 months to kind of carry out in order for that high to come down for them to be able to make a clear choice, in my
Can
opinion.
we explain the 3, 6, 9 month rule a little more? Because some of us have never heard of it.
Sure. So all it is just saying that it takes about that time before the chemicals settle in the brain. Those love chemicals that we talked about.
Yeah.
Epinephrine, norepinephrine, PEA.
All right, question number 2, the way Sharbria said it first was a little too long, so I had to reword it for the chat room. But basically, do you agree that I'm not sure how I even worded it now, but do you agree or disagree that the more tools and knowledge we provide you, the better chance they have of entering into a strong relationship? And if so, like if you agree with that statement, that the more information and tools we give them helps, what tools are most important to put in their toolbox? Let's start with table 2 this time.
Oh, sorry.
All right. So what we were talking about was, first of all, everyone agreed that absolutely the more tools that are available, the more knowledge, the more skills are definitely make teens and adults too better equipped to make informed, healthy decisions, because sometimes, unfortunately, people don't have any examples of healthy relationships around them. And if you don't have those role models in your real life, you know, in your everyday life, then you have to learn it in a more formalized setting, maybe like in an after school program or something like that, because you don't sort of naturally absorb it. And we said that the most important tools were communication tools, definitely, or communication skills rather, because that's something that affects you all throughout your life in all walks of life and in all different areas. And also that we wanted teens to know that they are allowed to have standards and they're allowed to create relationships surrounding those standards. They're allowed to say no to people. They're allowed to be alone, and that's fine. Essentially, the decide, don't slide model, that it's okay to think to yourself, okay, yes, I want to be here, or no, I don't, and then follow through with that decision to say, no, I don't want to be in this relationship with this person.
Yeah, if you have the I hear you saying, if they have the communication skills, then it's easier for them to communicate their boundaries and not find themselves on that slippery slope, right? Is that what I hear you saying? Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go with our Valpo people. What did you all say?
We went with good communication, honesty, trust, and respect. What I instill in the youth that are in my life, especially these 13-year-old relationships, is if you're not communicating now, it's gonna be one of those 1 week done relationships. And so we actually have one of our youth, they're at 1.5 years, and me and my girlfriend have been able to mentor them in a relationship and show them how to communicate and show them how to get through issues. So it's pretty cool seeing like that and then learning about it on this spectrum.
Okay, Lewis, how about your group? We've got 2 votes for communication.
Well, anybody else got anything on that? So we had communication vote over here as well. I think if I'll add to that, you have to, I think arming them with information helps as well. And I think with our curriculums, that gives them, I think the underlying thing there is empowerment, because when you give them information, you arm them with the opportunity to have, they're empowered now. And I think that helps them in their decision-making as well. But communication, I definitely agree with that as well. I was trying to give just another answer instead of communication.
Bring something else to the table.
Yes.
Got ya. So, Aviva, how do you say your name?
Yes, Aviva, like Viva Las Vegas.
Awesome. I've never heard it. It's pretty. I like it.
Thank you. I got it for my birthday.
Yeah. Yay. I love a response. That's so cool. Okay. So, you mentioned the slide versus decide, right? So that was the next question. Why is it so easy, or is it easy for these kids to just kind of find themselves going very quickly from this feels right to doing what feels right? That just, slide versus decide. Where was your conversation around that?
100%. It is easy, again, not just for teens, but for adults too. And actually 2 of us shared stories about older adults in our lives who we saw in sliding relationships, that they ended up in a relationship where the people around them were asking, what are you doing? Like, why are you with this person? It doesn't make any sense. And I think I mentioned it before, but it's so, the idea of being alone is terrifying to people. And I think that youth, especially, they, you know, we were saying that they have this strong desire to belong. And if they are single, it can be construed as a negative reflection on them, that there's something wrong with them. And so being with anyone is better than being alone. And that's why it can be appealing to just sort of end up somewhere just so you can be with someone so that you're not single, unfortunately.
That's great. Lewis, what did your group talk about in that around that subject?
It was unanimous that sliding is a lot, and it's kind of like she just said, it's easy for adults too, but the thing that helps not sliding is being able to arm them with information about red flags, being able to empower them with vision. So like in Love Notes, we do a lot of activities that help them to jumpstart their vision of their futures. So once you have that vision has a way to steer you in the direction of what you're hoping for. And what we hope is to keep them on that track versus going off on the track. So I always give my example in class where my dream was to play in the NBA, play pro basketball. And so there was things that I did not do because I didn't want to throw that dream off track. And so I had several friends that ended up, you know, getting someone pregnant, and a couple particular, they went to college, but they had to leave college and leave their football scholarship and everything to come home and work to take care of their kid, which very commendable, and they did the right thing, but the vision that they have for themselves got thrown offline. And so when I seen those things, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. So I'm not going to have sex in high school, which I didn't. And so I try to throw that in there to show them that how having a vision will help you. It's a way to help you not slide. It's like, okay, I'm not going that direction. I'm not making that choice. And so I think for, you know, just with the kids in general, us teaching them through our curriculums and making them aware that I have a vision, I have a choice. I can make a decision. I don't just have to fall into something. I can make a decision not to on purpose. And so that's kind of my spiel. I think that those things that we do really help, as well as making them aware of things like red flags and different things that we do go through with them in our curriculum.
So before I move to the next group, and I'm just going to leave this open, this question as kind of a follow-up. We've heard a lot about Love Notes, which this is not a commercial for, by the way. It just so happens that Sharbria is one of our educators for that, but I know that a lot of other curriculum are represented on this call. So how do we help you set those boundaries and communicate what their boundaries are? And you can use examples from, you know, whatever curricula you're teaching, or just be general about it. How do we have those conversations? And then that kind of leads us into the next question about how do we teach self-regulation to these students? How do we first help them understand that it's necessary to set a goal or a vision, and then set boundaries around their choices and communicate those? Because we talked about how communication is so important. So I'll just leave that open to anybody who wants to jump in. How do we teach that? Maybe how do you teach it in what you're using, or how do you teach it just in general? What are your thoughts about those subjects? Casting a vision, setting goals, setting boundaries, and then communicating those things to your peer group, and if you're in a romantic relationship, to that partner.
I said one of the things that I think, and it's a part of my curriculum that I've been reading, is that they first kind of identify, where are we right now? You know, it's kind of hard to set boundaries when we don't know what we're protecting first. So kind of identifying, where am I right now? Where am I trying to go? And how can I create boundaries to protect the goal that I'm trying to get to? That's what I would.
That's great.
I would say for our curriculum, for Horizon, the Horizon program, we use a number system to some extent. And we basically identify levels of physical affection to our students from 1 to 8. And we have them write that down, what their level is, where they feel most comfortable, where they feel that they should stop, or teens their age should stop. And we make them aware of where they're, like Kayla said, where they are, where their boundaries are. Because like she said, it's hard for you to know if someone's going past your boundary if you don't know where your boundaries are. So we have a conversation about, you know, where their number stops, where they're comfortable. And then we talk about not being super unequal in how they match up with another person. So they might be a 3, and we kind of let them know that you probably should be rethinking about a relationship where maybe you're with someone who's a 6, right? Who they feel that that's their limit, and then your limit is a 3. You're either going to have to compromise, have really, really open conversations. Someone's going to have to be really respectful and patient. And if that doesn't happen, then that's when you need to kind of start thinking about, okay, well, is this relationship going to go farther, go past my boundaries? Going to be an imbalanced relationship to begin with. So I think having those conversations about where your limits are, your boundaries are, so that you can know when a person is going past them, and then that'll help even with the matching, with making sure that your values are in sync to have a good, relationship match.
So where do we go with the self-regulation conversation? How did that conversation go at your table? How do we teach that to you?
In terms of self-regulation, I think it's really about, much to what Lewis said earlier, it's that information, making sure that they have information, knowing that they can stop. They don't have to go farther than where they're comfortable. And then some of them making them aware of the consequences, the real life consequences of going too far. And so you can't control a person, and that's something that's needed to be known as well. You can't control another person, but you can control your actions. You can control how you respond to other people. You can control who you're around. You can control who you're in relationship with. So what you can control, do control. So I think that's kind of where we start.
Aviva, what is your conversation in your group around self-regulation?
We mentioned doing hands-on visual activities because we felt like those were the most memorable for youth, instead of just saying, you should self-regulate, but actually doing the, some kind of like visual representation of why that's important. I mentioned that I have done not Love Notes, but Relationship Smarts, which is pretty similar to Love Notes. And there's an activity, I don't know if this is in Love Notes as well, but there's this activity where you take a water bottle that represents someone's brain, and then you add all of these different colors of glitter that represent all of those love chemicals. And then you shake up the water bottle and you see that everything's swirling around, you can't see clearly. You have to like wait. Oh yeah, it's a great activity. And then, you wait and for the glitter to physically settle. And then Sandy said, well, what if we even took it a step further, and instead of the teacher doing it or the instructor doing it at the front, what if everybody did it and every participant had their own water bottle? Wouldn't that be so impactful? And so I think, showing rather than telling, like showing a skill or showing a concept rather than telling, is the best way to have the most impact in general. But, specifically we were talking about like self-regulating, like wait until the glitter settles before you do anything drastic.
Yeah. All right, that's perfect. The last question, and we're kind of running out of time. I had a follow-up, but I'm going to hold it. Maybe I'll put it out there as one of our evaluation questions, and you all can think about it. But what is your one takeaway from today? What one thing did you hear that you might add to what you're doing, or that might change just a little bit what you're doing? What was your one takeaway? Anything at the Valpo office?
So we all said, and we all agree on the glitter bottle thing and figuring out how to implement that into Relentless and into our program, because it is a very yeah, it's a great visual. And even for them to be able, one of them to be able to demonstrate it and get their hands on, and hopefully that'll click with them a little better with that one.
Awesome. Lewis?
I really like that 3-6-9 rule. I had never heard of that before today. And I think that's very practical. It's very applicable for something, you know, for kids to actually have in their minds of like what to think about when it comes to dating. It's really.
I think we don't necessarily break it down in our program, kind of like we talked about today, but like the what's love got to do with it? Is it a decision or is it feeling? Like we talk about it in general, but the way we kind of broke it down, I know how Viva, they talked about it differently, and just showing like maybe we could talk about showing some kind of continuum. Like it starts as a feeling, then it goes to this, then it goes to this, or it starts as a decision. You know, I don't know, that helped me a little bit today just by thinking about it like that. I think I want to do something with that, but not quite sure what it is, but that's where my mind is kind of going over something like that, like a continuum to show the kids or something like that.
Viva, anything from your group? Something, maybe it was even something in your conversation and not even part of what Sharbria shared. Anything?
A lot of the members of our group said that it was, a lot of the information was sort of served as a reminder of how, excuse me, of how important this kind of information and, you know, how important like this kind of program is for youth. So I think we're going to take home a renewed sense of importance of like why we're here, why we're doing this, and you know, the practical tools to allow us to be able to keep doing it.
So I'm going to throw out one more question, and I know it's going to make us go over just a little tad. So if you have to go, thank you for joining us today, but I would like to have just this one last conversation, and I would like everybody to feel free to open your mics and share, because it wasn't part of your conversation. But I think most of us on this call are SRA grantees, so sexual risk avoidance. And I'm just wondering how we can strengthen that SRA message around this conversation. You know, how do we help youth understand that an option is abstinence, and that maybe they've slid, you know, and they find themselves in an unhealthy relationship? How do we help them understand that there's options and opportunities for fresh beginnings and healthier relationships? Just thinking about that from an SRA perspective. I know for us, most of our grants fall under that category. And so how do we bring it back to the purpose of the grants that are funding our programs?
Can I add to that?
Yeah, anybody?
Yeah. So we, within our curriculum, we have a success sequence, but there's two success sequences. There's one, if someone was to go along the path of, you know, not having sex and following their vision without any kind of hiccup or hindrance, but it's also a success sequence of someone that has gotten off track. And so now it takes them from, maybe they dropped out, and maybe they had a kid, but now getting back on track, getting their GED, or if they've had a kid, you know, getting established in a job or career, then marriage, then a kid. we kind of walk them through both of them in our classes, so that those who have messed up, they do have that option. So I think that's one of the ways.
We also talked about the success sequence. Sorry, it's not going to work.
Go ahead.
Okay, we also talked about this.
One of the two of you have to be muted.
Okay, mute yourself. Oh, we both.
Can you mute?
I'm muted.
Sandy, I think you need to mute and Sharbria needs to unmute.
Hi, did that work?
There you go.
All right. In our group, we also talked about the success sequence, and how important it was that we weave that throughout our curriculum, and anytime we're working with youth, that we make sure that they understand that that kind of plan to follow is really important. We talked about that with goal setting, and when we were talking about setting boundaries. Then you can talk about it with communication, you know, to let your partner know that you plan to follow that success sequence. Throughout the relationship, all the steps of the relationship, you definitely need to keep your eyes on your goal and following that sequence. Never take your eyes off of it, because that's when you slide. So that was
Anybody
all.
else that hasn't had a chance to share yet want to add their 2 cents? All right, Sharbria, would you like to switch chairs with Sandy one more time? They're playing musical chairs because they're sharing an office. Sharbria, why don't you give us a little wrap up and close us up for today?
Sure. I just want to thank you all for joining us today. As we said, just a reminder of what a lot of us teach, what a lot of us know, and just to be kind of empowered and refreshed ourselves in this message to be able to further encourage our youth that there is healthy relationships possible out there for them. So thank you guys for joining in today, and hopefully we'll see you at our next lunch table. See you guys soon. Bye.